Before we start today's service, I have kind of an announcement or a few words to share. I prepare my messages in advance. They're not all written. For example, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about 3 weeks from now, but in general, I know what's going to happen in order to get a bulletin out and things like that. I have my message in the church service prepared by Tuesday morning, and usually the bulletin is shared by Tuesday afternoon. And this week, Wednesday, introduced a lot of changes to the idea. I get asked a lot to be more aggressive and more forceful in my messages from the pulpit on issues that involve contemporary American life and our Christian place in it. And that's not entirely inappropriate, because as a Methodist religion, we have a series of social principles that kind of dictate how we respond to political issues from a Christian perspective. A simple example would be slavery. We stand against it. Here's why, whether it's a political issue or not. So, while that's not entirely inappropriate, I've always tried to be very careful as a leader and someone speaking from the pulpit to be very balanced on both sides of the equation. So in the last year, for example, while other people have asked me to take a more aggressive stance, I would counter that I've spoken against things like fear and how fear clouds our perception of reality. And I've spoken about how to recognize truth in an environment where a lot of people are lying to you. And I've spoken about anger, specifically in the last few weeks, about how anger is a dark source of energy from a dark place. And anger leads us away from God. Very specifically, leads us away from God. Last Wednesday, a group of people who I have no doubt felt that they were being not just patriotic, but pursuing truth and justice, allowed themselves to get led and fueled by anger. And that anger led them to a dark place. And I think that today, many, maybe even most of those people are embarrassed, maybe even ashamed, and certainly concerned about some of the repercussions that those dark actions led to. As a leader, I have a responsibility to care for everybody that I'm attempting to lead. And in a church, that means I can't really pick one side of the aisle or the other. I have to care and love everybody. And in reality, every leader assumes and shares a similar responsibility, whether they're a pastor or a politician or a parent. The key to leadership, though, is that it's not about me or people who think like me. It's about the community. Now, on the flip, as Americans and as Christians, we have other responsibilities. As Americans, we have a responsibility to be respectful and to be concerned about what other people think. That's a responsibility as a citizen. And as a Christian, we go a step further and we say we have a responsibility to love people. And sometimes we forget that. But the reality is that as Americans and as Christians in particularly, just as a leader, it's not about me. As a Christian and as American, it's not about you. It's about all of us. So, if you're out there today anxious or afraid, my counsel is to remember that fear clouds and confuses reality. And just like banners kind of say here, don't be afraid. God is there. If you are confused by the information, you don't know who or what to believe, then my counsel is to take a deep breath and look at what's going on and listen to the people that you trust and try to remember that no matter who those people are or what they're saying, don't get led to the dark, whatever that is. And if you're angry, if you're at home angry, if you're here in the pews and you're angry and you're wondering what we need truth and we need justice and we need it now, then my absolute counsel is to take a very deep breath. Because anger is leading you away from God and truth and justice. Jesus is very clear about it, as is God. Love is everything. God says, love me with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your spirit. Jesus says, they will know you're my disciples by your love. And if you're frustrated and angry and you're wondering what to do and you think you need to do something, remember the words of the Scriptures. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and I hand over my body so that I may be boasting, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful. It's not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. If you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're concerned, before you follow the darkness, before you fall into the pit of mistakes and frustration that so many people fell into a few days ago, and frankly have fallen into through the course of the summer. There's other incidents where people were angry and seeking justice. And next thing you knew, they were rioting, setting fires to buildings, and looting Walmarts. But those are dark things, dark times. Love does not allow any of that. If you're concerned and frustrated and all those things, remember that God is constant. And in a few moments, I'm going to reset, and we're going to talk about John the Baptist. And we're not going to ignore what happened in the week. We're addressing that here. But we're going to move forward with this from the perspective of God is always there, is always constant. And he's a haven no matter what's happening. Whether it's political unrest, war, crime, a pandemic, disease. God is constant. God is peace. God is comfort. What's the line in the psalm? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.